Okay, I am back with my fifth installment of these Q&A videos. And yeah, I don't know how many people will want to watch so many videos where I answer questions, but I'm enjoying doing them, and that's, in the end, all I really care about. And I do want to get to every question, and I do want to give every question whatever thought I can. It's all off the top of my head, though. In fact, the first question up next is from Larissa, who is, along with me, a stalwart of 5 years of doing comic book videos, or 5 years-ish. I don't know if she started a few months before me, a few months after me. Anyway, she asks, can you find 5 comics that would describe your 5 years on YouTube? And my actual comics, for the most part, are still hidden away in a closet, too hard to get to. So I'm just gonna, off the top of my head, try to think of how I started out. And I feel like at the first year would be like a Steve Ditko Spider-Man. I was probing into the darkness in a way, just feeling my way along, trying to do the best I could to join the gang of superheroes. I don't know, the feeling of the Ditko Spider-Man, of the loneliness of it, and the feeling like an oddball and everything. But then, year 2, I would say suddenly I'm in a Richie Rich comic. Everyone loves me. I am wealthy beyond belief. It felt like during that year, this is all pretty rough, but that everybody that I knew of doing comic book videos knew who I was, and I knew who they were. It was like one big happy family. And I even occasionally would have people call me like a pillar of the community and that kind of thing. Imagine that now. But yeah, it was still a small community, and so I had kind of succeeded beyond my wildest dreams, my small little dreams, of being rich and famous on YouTube. But not, of course, no riches at all, except in my mind. Let's see. Then the third year was like, not Crisis on Infinite Earths or something like that. I'm trying to think of some kind of Crisis comic book, but it's smaller than that. Maybe it was like a issue of Stray Bullets, even though I haven't read many issues of Stray Bullets yet. Everything seemed to be going wrong. The community as I knew it seemed to, too many times was it turning upon itself in ridiculous, low-rent kind of ways. And so then in the fourth year, I'd say I was like in a Gru comic book. I was Gru, just wandering blithely in the universe, in the wilderness, across the landscape, not really knowing what I was doing or feeling connected with things, just hacking away, just me and my loyal dog Roberto. And now in this fifth year just passed, maybe it feels more like I was in a recent issue of Detective Comics, kind of the Batman family. We're a small, tight-knit group, swinging freely through the city at night. By now I feel like the comic book community is utterly different, something I don't really understand, much bigger than me, and bigger than my little circle, bigger than I want, and the majority of the comic book videos gone off in a direction that isn't part of my little core, but we battle on like the members of the Detective Comics crew currently, guided by Batwoman and with Spoiler and Clayface. Maybe I was Clayface in that. So that describes it so far. I'm hoping this coming year will be like Headlopper. Mercy's Little Show, another wonderful person. I'm not sure how long Mercy's been around. 3.5 years, I would guess, if I had to. Rarely does videos right now. She used to do some really creative stuff in terms of the concept of the video and how she approached things. and just an awesome person all around. To me, kind of the ideal person here on YouTube in many ways, in her actions and behavior, and her treatment of other people and everything. So, but now she's busy with an extra child, and I'm sure very, very tired and busy. But she asked, if they made a Commandy TV show or movie, who would you cast as the lead? I think it would be much better as a TV show, really. It should be episodic. Who to cast as the lead, though, because I really don't follow... I have no idea who it should be like a 15 or 16-year-old or someone who looks like that, right? With long hair and able to go around without a shirt on all the time. I really don't know who those people are at all. Maybe like a young James Hetfield or something from Metallica, or even more crazily, William Shatner when he was 16, give him long hair and see what he would do with Commandy. What is your favorite Alan Moore comic? Boy, mercy, these are hard ones. I love so much Alan Moore to pick one. I mean, I almost don't want to pick Watchmen just because, we get Watchmen over and over again as the classic comic. So really what first pops into my head as my favorite is that first two trades of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. But really, the moment I say that, then I think, no, Tom Strong. Then I think, no, Promethea. Anyway, so you get the idea. But that was kind of cool when he came out with the League of those first two arcs or trades of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen really worked well. What is your favorite breakfast cereal? Well, sadly, I try to avoid my favorite breakfast cereal now with the growing gut. But I would say it is peanut butter Captain Crunch. I love that stuff. As a kid, Captain Crunch, not peanut butter Captain Crunch, because I was wary of anything with the word peanut in it back then, if they even made it back then. But Captain Crunch was my favorite cereal. And then as a grown-up, when I went back to Captain Crunch, when I was feeling decadent, I found I loved the peanut butter Captain Crunch. What's the last movie you watched in the movie theater? It was Lego Batman. I watched it with my daughter, Quacking Duck, Beatrix, and we saw it in the movie theater. We've seen a lot of direct-to-video Batman Lego movies before that, so it was a bit odd. They're acting like it's the first one or whatever. So we've seen all the Lego superhero movies. But so I have not seen a grown-up, because I think before that, did I see Sing or some other movie with my daughter? I've not seen a grown-up movie in the theater in a long time, and I've hardly watched any grown-up movies at all in many a year. I think basically at some point you get so busy with work and being a parent, you have to make your choices, and I decided to just spend more time reading comic books and less time watching movies and TV. So I'll get back to that someday. I mean, I used to be someone who went to the movies every week, and I always made sure to see every science fiction, fantasy type movie on the big screen, because that seemed to really matter. But that was in the days of the old big fat TVs with the low resolution. So now it feels like a big screen science fiction movie still looks good at home. So I guess I feel less pressure to go to the movie theaters that way. Plus, they just get more and more expensive. If you could recommend one prose book for people to read, what would you pick? Again, just one. What an impossible question. And the first thing that pops into my mind when I have to pick just one is Roger Zelazny's The Lord of Light. But I wish I could pick one for you, Mercy, that had a female lead. But that the females have a smaller role in those Roger Zelazny books. But it's one I've reread a number of times over the years and really liked. If there were a second runner-up, maybe Dune, but that's a much bigger commitment to read. Okay, Russ Works, who's been commenting on my videos a lot lately, has asked, if you were given an unlimited budget, unlimited access to properties and creators, living and dead, and were told to create a line of comics, what would they be? So, wow, a whole line of comics. I think, so I have unlimited access. I would own the Jack Kirby's Fourth World series, and Jack Kirby would come back to life, but there would, it would be a whole universe of comics. So there would be some other comics drawn by Bernie Wrightston and written by Mike Barron, who did the Nexus comics, and of course we'd also bring in Steve Rude to work on some of these, and he would, who would write with Steve Rude? I think I would want to have Charles Soule do the writing with Steve Rude, and Kurt Busiek maybe could do the writing. No, I said Mike Barron with Bernie Wrightston. Kurt Busiek would do some writing on some of the other ones. Maybe Kurt Busiek and Itzhak Ribbit would work together on some of the other ones. So we'd have the Orion and Light Ray kind of comic. We would have Mr. Miracle, and then we would explore other little niches. We would have a whole series just about the Mobius chair and weird things that go on with that. Always strange when a gigantic pickup truck drives slowly down this quiet little street of mine. What are they up to? Okay. He said, for instance, if you want Lillian Hellman and Richard Corbin to work on Little Dot, or Franz Kafka to write Spider-Man, or Frank Frazetta to adapt I, Claudius, it can happen. Oh, his ideas are much better than mine. I'd love to see Richard Corbin doing some of that New Gods properties too. Yeah, and he gave me more clues of interesting things to do, but I didn't want to look at his ideas before I did mine. He says, think of all the novels, films, music that might be made into comics, and the kind of stories that have never been done by anyone in comics. As you probably realize, this is more than just a thought experiment. Is it more than a thought experiment? Russ, are you going to give me a large sum of money, and I'm going to put together a comic book company? I will come up with, since we can't really get the New Gods, I'll come up with something better with Frank Frazetta and Richard Corbin teamed up. Gotham Central, Derek Lucarelli, Batman video reviews. Is that right? What was it? Anyway, Luke, great guy, super Batman oriented. Currently his channel is called Gotham Central. And he's kind of semi on hiatus, I think, just putting out occasional videos. He used to really do the videos, I think, when he was in graduate school, and now that he's gone back to a regular job, he has less time, or maybe, also overwhelmed by too many kids. Looking back at when you started, do you feel your channel has accomplished what you wanted it to over the years? So that's an interesting thing, because I think when I started, secretly I wanted to be Howler Mouse. I wanted to talk about comic books as if I was Garrison Keillor, Lake Wobegon days, and that kind of thing, the way I feel Howler Mouse does at times. And it never really came out that way. But I think I evolved from there to thinking, I like this as a conversation, and there's kind of a unconscious art to conversation. Lo-fi is better, improvised is better. So I kind of made that my aesthetic, the lo-fi aesthetic, if you will. And I'm actually very pleased with how it came out. I'm very comfortable with doing videos. I don't really give a crap if other people are enjoying them or not. it's kind of like creating in this little comic book corner of myself, creating this comic book self. It's just exactly what I feel and what I want to be, and so I feel like I have been very successful at that. I mean, sometimes I bore myself to death when I go back and listen to the videos, but on the other hand, I'm also often very happy with the results that come out of that. So yeah, to me, that's been successful, although it doesn't match any plan. And I didn't have a big plan. I just heard people like Howler Mouse and Conster Brownstar and Ed 2964 or whatever he is talking about their real life with comics, and I just wanted it to be real life. And that's, I had no goal for a successful channel. I just hoped that some of those people would watch my videos and occasionally comment, and all of that happened. And then I met more of you and met all kinds of cool people. And, I kind of, in my ideal world, we would not be able to do hangouts together. We would not be able to do any kind of live chatting. We would just send out these discrete messages to each other, and our communications would go back and forth that way. I really like that form of communication. I can have my say, then you can have your say, she can have her say, everyone can have their say, and we can all listen as much as we want to. It's friends when you happen to have time for it, comic book friends when you happen to have time for it. No strings attached or anything. But of course, we all know that isn't always how it worked out, but that's how I continue to plug along thinking of it. And Luke's other question, from Gotham Central's other question is, what are the things you're most proud of? And I'm very proud of a video I did called Why Are Comics So Addictive? I think I pretty much summed myself up there, and it came out way better than it deserved to. I just was holding up random comics as I talked, and I really liked the way it came out. And the other experiment I did was I tried to imitate Travis and his son when they did 30 days of comics, and I wanted to do 30 days of comic vlogs or sleepy vlogs. And it didn't come out exactly the way I wanted to, and it took about 2 months to do. But I feel like by forcing myself to do a lot of stuff at that time, I really like a lot of the videos I did at that time. So I have a playlist somewhere, and I'd say at least half of those are ones I'm really proud of. They just got out a lot of stuff that I had to say and got me thinking more. Reedham Stephen, another long timer or as long as me timer, because there's people who have been on much longer, says, congrats on 5 years. Time flies when you're having fun. And he asks, if you had input on the choosing of the new creative team of the New Gods miniseries, who would be on the top of your list? So I think before I was listing mostly dead people. Maybe Itzhak Ribic or Steve Rude. I think I'd like to see Charles Soule write it, or I'd like to see Joshua Williams write it. The Joshua Williams who's doing Birthright, not the Joshua Williams who's doing Flash. I'm less happy with his work at Flash. Or is it Williamson, I think. If you could create your own DC omnibus with your favorite stories that represent your love for DC Comics, which ones would you choose? Wow, that would be quite a project. I think there'd have to be a lot of Neil Adams in there. Neil Adams Batman, Neil Adams Deadman, a gallery of a lot of Neil Adams covers. I think there would have to be a nice chunk of some of the, what to me are the classic, more kind of weird but very Silver Agey Kurt Swan Superman stories, and some of the rest of the Superman family, the oddest Lois Lane and oddest Jimmy Olsen stuff. And then maybe the full run of Commandy and OMAC in there. That's getting to be a very fat omnibus. But while we're at it, I guess I would want to string together some of those great Flash, Silver Age Flash comics. And yeah, for good measure, then throw in a good chunk of the Alan Moore Swamp Thing. And then you'd have a great cross-section of all kinds of wild and fun things that DC Comics can do, and still could fill many more omnibuses, I suppose. Are you currently reading any new Marvel comics? So I have one Marvel comic on my pull list. It is Hellcat. And I was reading it with my daughter, and she kind of lost interest after a while. It's kind of threads the edge of being a kid-friendly book and not being one. But I decided to keep getting it. I kind of liked it. I'm a little behind on reading it. And I think it's going to be canceled soon. And then I have like 6 Marvel comics that I get in the mail through Marvel's own subscription service. And I know other people have had bad luck with them getting beat up and stuff in the mail, but mine have mostly been in pretty good condition. So there I get the Silver Surfer, I get Daredevil, I get Thor, I get Moon Girl. So some of these are specifically because of my daughter. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, which I think is an awesome kids comic. And now we get the Great Lakes Avengers, which is pretty funny. I can't remember what inspired me to originally get it. I think I thought Squirrel Girl was in it, and she's not. That was a con. We assiduously read Squirrel Girl on Marvel Unlimited, so we're always half a year behind on it. But that's definitely one of my daughter's favorites. Squirrel Girl and Supergirl are her 2 favorite superheroes. And then I kind of follow a hodgepodge of stuff on that 6-month late thing, although mostly I'll just read 70s comics on Marvel Unlimited, given my druthers 70s and 60s comics. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm following closely on Marvel Unlimited. And it seems like there's one other comic that I'm subscribed to through the mail subscription, but I can't think of what it is. I didn't think I'd last too long outside here. Let me see if I can give you a little flash of my new street. I don't know what you can see because I'm turning the camera away from me. It's a very pleasant little street. There is a busy street just over there, busy-ish street just over there, but at least we've escaped the really busy street that we used to live on. I don't know how good the audio was there. I'm kind of talking softly because I'm outdoors and there's neighbors all around. But, yeah, let me try some more questions. Mind the Comics, a great new YouTuber. You should check him out. It seems like he's doing maybe a video a month or so, and he's in Portugal, and you get an interesting perspective from him, I think. Very, very in the head, intelligent perspective. What do you think of black and white art in modern comics? It's funny, I love the black and white, the 70s black and white magazine-sized comics, and there the art really seems suited to black and white. But a lot of times when I pick up a black and white comic now, I really wish there was color in it. Like, for instance, Usagi Yojimbo. There was one issue where they did a special color Usagi Yojimbo, and I loved it. But every time I try to read him in black and white, I just it visually doesn't quite work for me, and I just start losing interest before I finish the issue. I guess I'm trying to think of what other black and white comics there are out. There's not really a whole lot of them right now in the marketplace. I know there are things I've been talking about with Rez, saying, oh, well, I'm not... Oh, well, then I have trouble reading manga, because that, to me, really feels like it needs color, too. My eye doesn't parse the picture well enough in black and white. But if you get a comic book inked by Alfredo Alcala, it's way better in black and white. I recently picked up all those black and white reprints of Barry Smith Conan, and his stuff looks beautiful in black and white. So I don't know if the art of doing black and white comics right now is slightly lost. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of... There's... I guess I found the few issues of Stray Bullets I've read to be fine. Those are in black and white, but I wasn't wowed by the black and white art. I think it could have been nice in color, too. There are some things where you see a page or so reprinted black and white, and you think, oh, that's better than the color version. But those aren't the people who are doing black and white comics, like Juan Jose Ripes. They show a few illustrations in black and white in the current comic he's doing called Britannia, and it looks much better than the colored version. So yeah, there's probably could be more good black and white comics. It really depends on the art style, and maybe too many comics are being colored right now, and some more should be done in black and white, but they should be the right ones. Oh, and we answered another question from him about, has your daughter had access to digital comics, and how does she feel about them compared to comics? I'm filming on the iPad. I love the iPad where we read comics on it all the time. And I think she learned to read at age 4.5 because we were reading together on the iPad, comics in particular, but also book apps, you know, where the word as it's being read gets highlighted and things like that. But I think because we would read one panel at a time on the iPad, she would start seeing what I was reading in the little word balloons, and she would start putting it together. So she literally taught herself to read. No one taught her to read. She knew how to read when she entered school, thanks to, I think, in part, reading comics on the iPad. What's more desirable, a Hellblazer deluxe hardcover and an ashtray full of cigarette butts? An old Conan magazine autographed to you by Barry Windsor Smith, and a carpet soaked in ale since last night, or a PDF of your favorite superhero comic and a cup of Starbucks coffee? I'm not a big fan of reading things in PDF form. It's much better in the Comixology sliding around. I would say of those three choices, I would go for the autographed Barry Windsor Smith and a carpet soaked in ale since last night. I'll just throw that carpet out and keep that comic book. Okay, Edward2962, who I think has been doing videos a lot longer than me, and he was certainly one of the people who made me want to do videos. But he still has a very small audience, and he is very genuine and no bullshit, and I think more people should watch his videos. So he asked a question that is so on point. He says, Dee Dee Ramone from the Ramones and Ron Ashton from the Stooges have a fist fight. Who wins? For me, it has to be Dee Dee. Dee Dee Ramone is a big hero of mine. I, for whatever reason, am a big fan of bass guitar. I actually owned a bass guitar once, although I never really figured out how to play it. Did a lot of feedback on it. It was a hollow-bodied bass electric guitar, a Guild, and goofed around with it. I wanted to form a punk band, but none of my friends in high school were interested in punk. They all wanted to do Beatles and Who cover songs. So eventually I sold the bass, I think, sometime in college. But I always paid more attention to the bass parts of things, and I loved the Ramones, and Dee Dee was the coolest Ramone on stage, and then it turned out he was the main songwriter, and he's such a crazy, screwed-up person, but I think he would just go so crazy on Ron Ashton that he would win, and I just want him to win. And he's dead now. Is Ron Ashton dead too? He might be. I know less about the Stooges specifically than just the whole Iggy Pop thing. Okay, getting close to the end, so I guess I'll just keep going. Jared Osborne, here's my question. How tall are you? You can never tell how tall someone is on YouTube. I was a little surprised when Travis said he was 6'3" or something like that. I didn't realize he was that tall. I was told by Travis that he was tall, but when I met him, I was blown away how tall he seemed. And every YouTuber I've met, I haven't met a lot of them yet, has been taller than I expected. So Matt Wednesday Cereal is quite tall. I think he's taller than me. And oh, here comes my daughter. Yeah, so I will have to answer the last few questions later. Okay, to wrap this up, I am joined by my favorite, Quacking Duck. Let's see, can we get a better shot of both of us here? This doesn't want to stay up.
Yeah.
Frashing. I'm still drinking this. Quacking Duck has her drink of choice. And we're on the last 3 questions. She's going to help me out as much as she would like. How tall are you? This is from Jared Osborne, the great Jared Osborne, who's been complaining that I put out too many videos. And he had to wait till this last video to hear his answer. You never can tell how tall someone is on YouTube. I was a little surprised when Travis said he was 6'3" or something like that. I didn't realize he was that tall.
Can I answer it too?
You want to say how tall you are first?
Well, I am 4'4".
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And
I'm about 4'4", 4'3".
Right.
Somewhere around there.
And would you used to always say you were one of the shorter girls in your class? Is that still true?
Well, I'm kind of a little bit, yeah.
Uh-huh, a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
If I move that back, we can see everyone better. I'm trying to get your face in the picture. That's not working. Maybe closer.
Yeah.
And I am 5'11". Although Jared pointed out in another comment that I may have shrunk and not know it, which is true because I haven't been measured in a long time. And some people shrink as they get older. I'm hoping I haven't started shrinking yet, but that may be optimism on my part. Although 5'11" might still be true because when I was young, I was actually 5'11 3/4. So even if I shrunk a bit, I might still be telling the truth.
So you were like so close to 6.
So close to 6, but not past. I always thought I would be past 6 feet tall,
No,
but I never was.
Like I'm almost 4'4".
Right.
Kind of. Yeah.
And my father was 6'1", and your grandfather, how tall was he? About 6'3".
Yeah.
And her uncle is really tall.
Yeah.
And then your best friend's father is like 6'6".
Yeah,
or something?
he's 6'5" or 6.
There's a lot of really tall men living in this neighborhood now, which is strange. So Beatrix has a lot of her friends have really tall parents.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of really tall kids in her classes too. Yeah, but it is funny. You really can't tell what someone looks like until you meet them in person. On YouTube, you get usually from the shoulders up. And
on me,
from certain
even
angles.
less.
On her, the chin up.
Yeah, sometimes the neck.
Sometimes the neck. So you'll be shocked at what she looks like in real life. Gore Vidal asks, what does your wife think about you being on YouTube and the motley crew of friends you've acquired over the years? So I'll let you give your opinion of what she thinks, what she might actually think. I asked her directly, and she said, it's what you like, so that's okay. And that's all she would say. Which I don't know if that's positive or negative, really.
Well, I think...
What do you think?
That, she's okay with it. She likes you doing what you like to do, but she would like it a lot if you, maybe didn't really do this. But I think...
You think she would like it better if I didn't do any of these?
I don't know, but she still likes you a lot and stuff, but she might not. Just
do you think she liked meeting Eric, Longbox Review, and Matt? Both of them stayed in our houses, so they got to meet the whole family.
Well, a little bit, yeah.
A little bit? A little bit?
I think she kind of did.
Eric was okay. Matt was okay.
Yeah.
She wouldn't kick them out of our house for being rude or anything. I'm just being silly.
Well, if they were actually being rude, maybe, but...
I think she finds it a bit strange, and is surprised that it's happening. But glad that I have friends. And I have friends elsewhere too. Glad for any friends I have. And finally, have any of your coworkers found your channel and said, "Hey, I know that guy"? To my knowledge, no one has found my channel yet.
Well, nobody from your work.
Has anyone from school found my channel?
No.
Have you ever mentioned my channel to anyone at school?
Not really, no.
No. So,
Yeah, I'm kind of keeping this thing a secret at
would
school.
you be embarrassed if someone at school found out?
A little bit. Probably, yes.
Would you be more embarrassed if it was a teacher or one of your friends?
A teacher.
A bunch of people just biked by on orange bicycles, which means they're tourists. They have these orange bicycles you can rent.
They're probably tourists.
It's very odd that our neighborhood has become a touristy neighborhood. When we had Eric Longbach's review here, we took him out for waffles, and most of the people in the waffle restaurant were speaking other languages. So they were visitors from other countries.
Yeah.
That was very startling.
That's to give you the idea.
Right, of this strange thing that happened to our neighborhood. Okay, well, that answers all my questions. Do you have all the questions given to me? Do you have any questions? Or any last words? To sum up my 5 years?
Wow. I can't remember how long I've been on your channel.
Oh, I think you were on my channel within the first 6 months. I remember your first video was a message to a comic book mom pointing out to her that her name should not be a comic book mom, but comic book mom. Or, wait, what was something about her name? Was she a comic book mom? Or maybe she should have been a comic book mom. You were very young then.
Yeah.
You're like 3.5. So she's more
Now
than
I'm 8.
twice that age now. 8, soon to be the great
soon to be 9.
So yeah, it's been a fun 5 years. I love the Q&A, so maybe I should do Q&A more often. What do you think?
Do Q&A every year?
I've done it 2 or 3 times before on my anniversary. I think I might have missed my anniversary last year. I'm not sure. But 5 years felt like a milestone. It's a long time to be some idiot on YouTube.
You're not an idiot, Dad.
That's a joke. Okay. We'll talk to you all again very soon, no doubt.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.